Hi and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. It's Monday, November 21st, 2022, and the topic for the day is called Australian Skies. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening August, September, somewhere in there in Australia. It's show number 174, and though it says November 11th, 11/11, that's when I created it, I'm finally now getting to record it, actually the voice part of it now. So you're sure to enjoy this. There are some fascinating images coming in so generously once again from none other than YowieGrrrowlz, who at this point can be officially considered a cloaking craft magnet officially. So YowieGrrrowlz just is pretty amazing, sends in some wondrous photos and says, hey, what do you see in here? And when I do what I normally do and do the little analysis and breakdown, I am always dumbfounded at what I find. Absolutely gobsmacked, awestruck, however you want to say it. So much starts to appear in the photos. And YowieGrrrowlz has a great sensitivity, can sense, when things are going on in the sky, and we always get way more than meets the eye. So with this particular show, all of the images are going to be exclusively coming in from YowieGrrrowlz. Big photo credit there, and again, heartfelt thanks. And it's all covering Australia, so we'll probably hop back into images from Miami next time around. So you hang tight and be ready for some amazement at what we're finding in these images. So let's get to it, and just as a little hint of what we're going to encounter, I mean, look at the center of this image right now. We have this machine part like a solid curve, with a crisp edge to it, leading up like an arm, like a curved arm, up to a perfect triangular form. So, that doesn't happen in natural clouds, and that's going to be the theme of the entire show. You're going to probably hear me repeat myself quite a bit saying, that's a cloaking craft, or this is something with structure in it hiding in the clouds. So here we go. Okay, let's get into it. So here's an alternate cover slide of just a beautiful, serene scene. This is an original photo, not enhanced, and when I get to enhanced versions of photos, I'm just taking the photo and editing attributes of it. I'm just upping or lowering levels of color, saturation, brightness, contrast, things of that nature, and that's it. Just to better draw out and highlight things that we're going to be finding in the clouds. So here we just see a beautiful scene over this water. And in this show, I want you also to pay particular attention to the scale at the horizon, the size of trees, compared to some of the size of expansiveness of these clouds and other objects within clouds that we're going to be looking at. So in this case, we have a little line of quote-unquote cloud activity marching along. I say quotes, or I guess in Australia they say inverted commas, maybe in the UK too. But quote-unquote, or air quotes, I'm going to use that term for the clouds, because what that means is I'm suspecting there's a lot of artificial cloud activity, or even plasma, different densities and consistencies of stuff that helps hide and cloak objects in the sky. And I'm noticing that more and more, that a lot of what used to be natural clouds are no longer natural looking. And you'll know that if you look at any of my other previous shows. And when speaking of previous shows, do make sure you check out, if you haven't already, show number 169, which also has some truly mind-bending, expanding, however you want to call it, photos also coming in from YowieGrrrowlz. That show's called Outback and OVNIs is just UFOs in Spanish. A couple of languages use that acronym, actually. And but anyway, in that show, YowieGrrrowlz submitted what I think is hands down the most conclusive evidence of cloaking craft in the sky that I have ever seen. And I've seen quite a bit since 2018. Anyway, let's get into the show now. So I wandered around a bit, but hang in there with me. So here we have these two offshoots, these things that look like they literally just jettisoned out, or really just popped up and flew up out of these quote-unquote cloud cover back down here. You can see a vapor trail, and these don't look like typical clouds. And we're going to be breaking all of this down and going into detail with everything. Here we'll go ahead and get to the enhanced version here. So we just see this trail, this thick, dense trail, like vapor trail, and that's not a normal shape of a cloud. We've got a weird fringe effect, we've got a point, and again, if you look at the trajectory, it says it all. Like, this thing just zoomed out of whatever cloud cover this is. Again, cloud in quotes. And we even have like a tube. If you follow my cursor, there's a hole, like a phantom like tube coming out of this thing. And a lot of times we see these things that are coming in and out of state. You'll see, again, in some of my other shows where it just takes, if you observe these things long enough, you'll see that they spring out, they morph and change a bit. You glimpse some, maybe some machine parts, and then they start to disintegrate and sometimes completely evaporate. You know, if you look away and you look back, it's like all gone. It's really wild. If you really start to observe the skies, if you're not doing it already, you start to catch these things and see these patterns. So anyway, we've got this thing popping up, but look at it, it has a very different kind of trail. It's all choppy. It's got, you know, totally different character of this thing. So that again too is a giveaway that something, you know, of non-natural cloud nature is happening in the skies. So we're going to zoom in on each of these separately, and hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. So here we go. We're going to look at the one on the left. And we see like a vertical hole. It's on angle, so it's oblique. There's another hole here that's more flattened out. And then we have like a perfect point here, like a triangular form, like a depression. And overall too, this is like a flattened element, and this is more vertical. And again, a natural cloud wouldn't bend and move this way. And it definitely looks like it has rigid structure, straight lines. There's a lot going on here that tells me there's some engineered elements going on in here. And again, the fact that it's kind of sprung up out of this denser, quote-unquote, cloud cover says a lot too. Now again, this is going to be one of those examples where there's a lot going on, like I'm not even covering what's hiding in this whole mass down here and whatever this thing is here, this darker gray piece. But you know, there's enough going on here, like this straight line, to show us we're dealing with things that are not natural cloud. So we're going to zoom in on this a little bit more. If you're looking at it on a bigger screen like a laptop, it's going to be very bitmappy. You might want to just squint your eyes to see stuff better. Or if you're looking at a smaller handheld device, you'll see it much clearer and crisper. So anyway, again, we've got this triangular form, this darker shadow of something, and then like these holes, you know, just like perfect ellipses. And this even looks almost like a square. Here we have like a perfect or near perfect right angle. So there's a darker imprint of something happening here as well. Then we look over at the other little thing on the right-hand side, sorry, and this is that one that had a much denser trail and had the end of the pipe that, you know, or tube, kind of phantom tube. I see it here on the big screen at least. You may need to go to a bigger device or smaller device to see some different things in each image. And then down here again, we've got this straight line that this sprang from. So, and then look here, we're going to get into this. We have a line that comes across this way and a line coming in perpendicular to it. And again, they are lines like with clear, crisp edges. So we know we're dealing with technology of some kind in the sky. And again, look at the horizon. What I mentioned is really watch the scale of some of this stuff happening in the sky compared to the tree line. I mean, the silhouettes of the trees. There's a lot happening all along here. All right, we're going back. We'll pop back up to our little friend up here at BB.1. Should be the best example with the enhancement to show you this weird like pipe, you know, with the hole at the end of it. And also kind of weird stuff happening at the profile of this thing. And again, this is all frayed and doing weird things that natural clouds just don't do, including like this point at the end. And actually, when we look at the upper left-hand corner, we see more of a line. This is looking like a symmetrical structure, where if we look here and here, these two little prongs are parallel to each other. And it almost looks like a part of a craft, a very metallic element, and that's kind of taking on an organic feel. It's almost like a crow skull or something. You know, it looks like a beak and an eye. Very, very strange stuff going on. See what you see in this scene. And again, there's something big cloaking back in here. We'll see if we get to it coming up. All right, but going back to this thing where we have the perpendicular elements, look at this. This even has like, what do I want to say? It almost looks like a tuning fork at the end, like these prongs and straight lines. You know, this is definitely some type of engineering, a structure, you know, up cloaked in here. And then we look at C. We see the dark shadow. That's also some type of cloaking shape. Again, looking like craft. And all in here, if you follow my cursor, this is very rectilinear and with rectangular elements in here as well. So we've got something massive cloaking in behind that whole cloud line, quote-unquote cloud line. Here's with some enhancement just to better see some stuff. Look at AA. Again, that little prong-like tuning fork-like thing at the end of this like rod. It's just pretty amazing. The more you look at any of these photos on your own time, the more you're going to see. Again, we've got these stick-like elements. These are parallel to each other, perfectly parallel and straight. And yet we have this like tube coming off dead level over here. So I think there are a lot of little objects floating around, almost like a tugboat to a cruise ship, you know, little things alongside a bigger thing, if you will. See what you find in here on your own time. Okay, now this gets really interesting. The letter G has a different color for a very specific reason. This is going to be like the prize winner of the show as far as what we're going to zoom into and look at and break down. So at first glance, we just see this overall scene. Again, look at the kind of the horizon line, big, beautiful expansiveness out here in nature. So at first glance, one might just think, what, you know, what's the big deal? These are just some clouds and, you know, whatever. Well, the more we look at it, we see it's a very big deal because here we have a weird hazy fuzz out. It's a very ethereal looking type of mist or fog. It looks like it wants to have structure to it. Looks like there's definitely more than just haphazard haze in the sky, especially since it's just concentrated in these little areas. And then when we look beyond that, look at this. These things are parallel. This is doing its own thing, which we'll get into more detail. It's actually making like a cross-like or star-like, very clear star-like shape, almost like a hood ornament of old cars, like sitting at the tip of a craft, I'm going to venture to say, and we'll take a look at it. And then down here, it's like a standalone craft, kind of an elliptical shape, doing its own thing. So the fact is that all of these things like don't match up with each other, and that just wouldn't happen in a normal natural sky. And then just wait until we get to G when we zoom in on that. And I have it circled because that's already now with enhancement. We start to see back, we'll go to G and then work our way back up to A. We start to see something that looks like, you know, we've got some skinny tubes, you know, we've got something a little more expansive but horizontally aligned. And then we see things that also kind of break off and seem to have their own little character. But when we really look, and again, you're going to really see this when we zoom in detail, we see like an overall massive structure that seems to be hidden and cloaked. And when we get into it, we're going to see actual machine parts along here. You know, we also have these straight lines, which is always the giveaway. We've got something of technology happening up in the skies. Now look at the scale of this thing, again, compared to the horizon line. And all of this coming along here, all of these quote-unquote clouds, these whiter ones, they all have like perfectly straight bottoms to them. And when we zoom in on all of that too, you start to see machine parts poking up out of each of these things. So it's really like a massive mix between a cargo ship and an aircraft carrier with a flat deck, where there's multiple craft maybe that land on it and, you know, can come use it as kind of like a portable landing port of some kind. And this also might be part of a bigger craft above hovering over this one. It's hard to say. But just look at the tremendous variety and scale that we would have, like maybe a little single craft here and a much bigger one. And plus whatever, not to mention whatever's going on up above here and whatever's hiding this massive glare out at 8.1. And look at 8.1. We're going to be looking at the profile, the rim of this thing. We see a lot of weird little things. Again, looks like the end of a tube. This is a pyramid, not a pyramid, but a triangular form. Looks like it's flying off of whatever this is. And then this can also be a standalone craft. And I already talked about this weird little thing. So let's look a little more going in detail. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. So here's that triangular form. It has a very ethereal feel to it. Again, this is part of that haze. And we even start to pick up some color signatures, so it looks like something else could be cloaking and hiding beyond there, generating that heat or energy signature. And what is this? Look at this thing. You know, it's very specific and very non-natural cloud. And then again, we see like a hole here and things with structure. Let's keep looking though. Here's that really intriguing thing at D.3. This is the thing I was calling the hood ornament, because look at, we have a straight stick going straight up. And then this doing its own thing, kind of like a partial star or something kind of hacked up a little bit. And then this thing coming on a weird angle. And again, just every piece and part up here is like doing its own thing. It has a completely different character than the thing right next to it. That's why it just doesn't look like natural clouds. And then F.3 almost looks like a ship in its own right if this were like the front of it. And then we have a wing off to one side and maybe a wing off to the other side. Anyway, there's much more to get into, so we're going to keep moving along. Here's another look at that little hood ornament. And look at this perfectly straight stick. Perfect angle here, another stick coming out of here. What the heck is this thing? What's going on? I don't know exactly, but I know that it's not a natural cloud. And look what's going on down here. I didn't even label it, but we've got a straight line coming this way, another one this way. I mean, are we just looking at little parts and pieces off of a much bigger craft happening beyond? Or are these just standalone things? See what you think. Here's that other one that I was saying. It looks like a wing, symmetrical wing over here and over here. And maybe this is the front of it. And we're kind of just seeing it phase in and out of state. We have a clear delineation. Look at this. We have a sharp line here. And just the overall look, it just seems very streamlined. Feels like something was designed, like, you know, a vehicle. All right, then we're going to look at this. Oh, and do feel free, once the show airs, go through at your own pace and just really pick apart and see what else you can find in each photo that I don't cover, just for fun. So here's that, what we're calling that object, that huge mass of what I said looks like a cross between maybe a cargo ship or like an aircraft carrier where things can just land on it or take off from it. So here we're getting to see more parts and pieces. At D over here, it looks like a piece of a pyramid with some object poking up through it. Here, this would be, to me, the back of this overall craft. This would be the bow at the front, and this would be the deck. And this might be like the control room, what do I want to say, the bridge. And, you know, this at B looks like a wedge-shaped craft, or maybe just multiple craft flying together in formation. And then over here gets real interesting at A, because right here, we're going to zoom in. We even start to see a hexagonal form with a pipe coming out of it. So I don't know if those are weapons, like guns, like gunners, you know, coming out of this stuff, or something else. You be the judge on that when we get to it. But again, here's the horizon line. Here are those little things that are calling like little ships with straight edges at the bottom. And again, we're going to zoom in on some of these so you'll see what I mean, why I'm saying that. And then this is a huge craft in relation to these little things. So let's get into it a little more. Here I've just upped the brightness to fade some things out to really emphasize. If you can follow with me, this is the control deck or the bridge, and this is the flat deck, and that's the bow or the front of this quote-unquote ship, and look at the bottom of it. And then I don't know what's happening back here, but maybe that's even another ship beyond this one, or it's all part of one thing. But look here how it looks like things are kind of like hovering over it. This at A looks like it's lifting up off of it. And this looks like another ship maybe parked on the deck. And then follow my cursor. Look at these straight stick-like elements. Those are, I think, are individual craft. And then what's going on at B? It looks like something is launched straight up off of this other craft. And it's totally like in a phantom mode or something. It's just really bizarre, all of this. And we start to look over here where my cursor is. These are little bits and pieces like pipes and things sticking out of either this bigger craft, or we have little craft floating in front of this in the foreground, and we're seeing parts and pieces of that. It's hard to say, but I think there's enough in here to show you that this is absolutely multiple cloaking craft. And again, look at this massive scale. I'm just in awe. So, awe Australian skies. So here I'm putting even more brightness, and I'm going to toggle back and forth for a minute so you can just see what I'm getting at. We still have these dark elements showing that there's something massive and solid there. And we still see these little bits and pieces, which are, you know, rectilinear. They're, you know, straight as straight can be. Little tubes and tubules and pipes and things. And so again, see what you see in this. And we see darker elements back in here too. Oh, let me go back. So now we're going to go to A, where I said I even saw hexagonal forms. Here we go. I hope you can see this on whether you're looking at it at a small format or a big format. This, if you follow my cursor, has facets. This is a hexagonal shape. And it even looks like we have rivets, like you can see rivets on a metal plate and a pipe. It's a tube. And here's another one here, and there's another one over here, and some other pipe sticking out at us here too. So it's either weaponry, like cannons, or like they shoot lasers or something is all I can see, or this thing just goes around shooting out artificial cloud material or plasma. That's very possible too. This could be its own little, cloaking instrumentation or equipment. See what you think what they're doing, but my God, there are facets to this thing. It's machine parts. And then we look over here, and again, look how straight these stick pieces are. It's really fascinating. If we didn't have the technology that we have, this is all taken, presumably, I'm 99.999% sure YowieGrrrowlz took this on a camera phone. So these camera phones, they have such a vast photo and light sensitivity, to allow us to, with the help of other, software, get to these things. I mean, this was at a remarkable distance away, and yet, we get this clarity, fairly clear for being that far away, and this detail. It's just mind-boggling. So anyway, let's keep going. Here I'm going to zoom in a tiny bit more on this AA feature. And now I'm calling it AAA because now I've taken the color out just to help us see things in a different way. The eye to brain connection, sometimes works differently if you do things like remove color or exaggerate color or flip the image or, look at it in a mirror. So in this case, I wanted to remove all color. And again, look at this. Straight edge, straight edge, straight edge. This thing is faceted like a nut and bolt almost. Like this would be the nut and that would be the bolt. But again, this looks like the end of a pipe, or, I don't know if it's a cannon or it shoots out this artificial cloud or plasma to cloak itself. No idea. See what you think. And then, of course, I have all these question marks, and I'll leave that for you to enjoy on your own time and try to figure out what the heck is going on in this scene. Again, the more you look, like there's a hole here in a semicircular form, the more you're going to find. And this stuff is kind of floating in front, doing something else, these bright white objects as well. Okay, now we're going to look at the central portion of that huge, big, red circle that I drew over this enormous craft. This is happening kind of toward the middle portion. And again, look at this thing. It's either one overall craft with little pieces coming off of it, or it's multiple craft kind of, clinging to maybe another one or flying in formation. Here's that thing that looked weird, that it was just kind of ghost-like or coming in or out of state. Now looking at this thing, it looks like it has two legs in a round form. So again, it looks like structure in this whole thing too. See what you see. Now this is going off to the left side of that whole big here. If we look at the back end, if this is a boat, and I said to the right was the bow, and this would be the stern. Look at this straight line, okay? With like a stick-like element there to tip it off. It's got to be a structure, solid structure. Now this looks like it's actually docked up next to this bigger thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was like a hitch, and this is connected. And we have another clear cylinder. So again, I don't know if this is a part of like a bigger cannon or something that comes all the way down, but this is a very clear machine part, no question. Now we're taking the color out once again and fading it out a bit to try to get at what's going on over here. So we have that straight line, what I'm calling the stern, and then we have these clear objects again. They look like little craft flying around. And then we come down here, and like I said, we have really straight edges in some of these quote-unquote clouds, and beyond them you see darker shadows. So I absolutely believe that these are just like a decoy to kind of distract your eye visually while we've got something bigger and darker cloaking beyond each one. Look at this. And it's not a shadow because the thing beyond doesn't match, the line of what's going on here, especially not here. And once again, we have kind of a stick-like form on this darker element beyond. So it's pretty fascinating how these things are cloaking themselves. Now we take a different view and look at this sky. So there's nothing natural about this sky either, especially when you look at what's going on in the middle. So we've got weird pointed things moving this way, moving straight up. Again, nothing in natural clouds is going to be going perpendicular or near perpendicular to each other with that kind of movement. So this one, I just want to jump straight into the enhancements. We have a weird imprint over here. I didn't label it. We have, a clear, darker object back in here. And then what the heck is going on with all of this? We're going to zoom in a little more and also look at the scale once again compared to this tree on the horizon line. And we have like one rounded element here, very smooth, and a straighter element with a point over here. And again, it's almost like this is one big craft. Maybe this is all part of the same thing moving up, or this is definitely a craft. One here too, all of it cloaking. Maybe this is its own thing happening over here. It's hard to say. But let's look in a little more detail. Here are those little wings that curve up. And then what is this at E point 2? We start to see something come toward us at the point, definite point, high lit point coming at us in the scene. Then there's like a loop or a curve, a perfect curve, and like a rim going on in there with holes. And then we have a straight line here. What the heck is this? So again, it looks like the tip of a cloaking craft here beyond. Then we have something here, and this right now, if you follow my cursor, see how I'm going up and over? This definitely looks like two wings and a point, but is this a craft almost like a shuttle? It almost has like a space shuttle feel to it if it's coming at us. Or are we looking at the tail of some other like whale-like shaped thing, or kind of torpedo-shaped thing, or bomb-shaped thing? If this is the tail of something, then that would mean that if this is a craft, it has a very organic or bioorganism feel to it. And I've covered it on shows way back where I'm totally open to the fact that either these are craft that emulate and are designed to look like bioorganisms, or they could very well be some kind of bioorganism. You know, we don't know enough at all of this if we're just discovering cloaking craft these days. You know, what else is there to discover? I think quite a bit. Anyway, let's keep going. We're going to zoom in a little bit more, and again, I'm playing around with the levels, adjusting color saturation and brightness just to see in contrast, you know, are we getting at anything more? And we really don't. Maybe you can, though, at a different scale. Here, you know, again, we just see more of this object, and I'm thinking more and more when I see it, this might be a tail, you know, piece. But whatever it is, it's absolutely symmetrical with these lines like wings and, you know, coming to a point here in the center. Here's one more look at just this one, and look at, we've got, you know, pure lines, perfect curve, you know, these straight lines off to the side, symmetrical. And then what's this white stuff? Maybe that's kind of some plasma wafting over this thing, and it's all bunched up so we see it like a little more white at that point. That's my guess. What do you think? Okay, now we've got an adorable, well, we don't get to see the face, but we've got a really cute dog in the foreground, but look at this overall scene. Again, look at the scale. We've got a horizon, okay, and then we've got a lot of cloud activity doing all kinds of things. Like, look at this shape of whatever's happening up here. And then we have a really dark band that doesn't really fit anything going on here. We're going to get into this. And then we have this weird movement here, and we start to see, like, again, circular patterns and things that just don't act like natural cloud. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. So now, when we look over to the left-hand side of this photo in the sky portion, we start to see weird shapes and things popping up through the cloud that are very dark, and a little bit happening over here too. And we're going to zoom into this whole thing. It just looks too suspicious to be regular clouds, just in general, even when we come all the way down here. And then again, this B.1 is sticking out like a sore thumb. Something very unusual about that. Again, straight as straight can be along the bottom of it, and it has weird little features and things happening in here. We're going to zoom in on that. And then we're even going to zoom in detail of what the heck is going on down here and up here as well. So actually, this is going to be going on over at A. Just weird character, weird stuff going on right there in particular. And here it is. So look at this. I can't quite identify what that is, but it doesn't look natural. It looks like it has structure, almost like if you took like a hubcap and put it on its side or something. It has a roundish feel to it. And then again, what's this stuff? It also looks like it's some kind of structure poking out here and not behaving like a natural cloud regardless. Then we're going to look at the bottom of that A area, and again, it almost looks like we have sticks poking out over here. There's a hole over here where we have the question marks. Look at this straight line with shadow. There's something definitely hiding in there that has a structure to it and is engineered. And look at here, we have question marks here. Look at this. Pure edges of something, again, poking up through the clouds. So what this thing is it just multiple smaller craft? Is it one huge one? Hard to say, because we literally are dealing with smoke and mirrors at this point. But one day I believe it's all going to blow away and we'll see what we're really dealing with. And actually, again, if you look at show number 169, that gives you a good kind of idea of what we could actually see if more of the smoke blew away, so to speak. So here, this is really weird. The question marks, It looks like some kind of like tube, like a funnel with something dumping out. Like, looks like this thing just like dropped out of this tube or this like vortex of some kind, and that this is the cloaking craft, because look, it's pitching down an angle. It's just really strange. Let's keep moving, taking all color out and upping the contrast just to see if we can get at what's going on with this tube. It definitely looks like there's a vapor trail coming out of it, so I gotta say, it looks like this thing just shot out of this tube. We have stick-like formations here, at the end. It's not behaving like a regular cloud. Again, we almost have a right angle here on those two sticks. Something starts to get really weird over here as well. We have sharp shadows, highlight points. We're dealing with structures of some kind. Okay, now we got a beautiful view of this plane, and beautiful plane, and sets up beautifully. Gorgeous image here with the wild trees and the wild clouds. So, again, if you just think, oh yeah, this is just a typical sky scene, and you don't really think about things, well, then the miracle of what's going to unfold will just pass you by. But if you really start to look, you say, this looks like a triangular form popping up out of that cloud. There's just some weird shapes, things moving vertically between what are otherwise more horizontal things. And also just look at the proximities of this. They're relatively in the same altitude, and yet this is really dark, a dark blue-gray with really straight lines to it, and this too. This is going up this way, and yet you've got white and grays. It's just such a weird mix, and that none of it fits. That's what gets the attention also. So let's look at it with enhancement. I'm going to toggle back and forth. It really pops out when we look at with enhancement. So now we see at A and B, these absolutely look like craft, because we've got, again, little reflective points that are showing that there's kind of metallic or machine parts happening in here and over here as well. And really, this might be one bigger craft if you follow my cursor, that's kind of half submerged in some heavy cloaking. Because if you look over here, this is a straight line, it bends down, and it looks like that could be a parallel, counterpart to this thing, that this could be all one part of one bigger craft. Maybe, maybe not, or it could be two different ones, hard to say. But then we start to see some very interesting things going on down at C, D, E, and F. Again, F was that triangular point, rounded triangle popping up straight up out of this quote-unquote cloud. Then at E, this gets very interesting. If you follow my cursor to the left, it looks like the point, and then this would be like the back end. So all of this looks like it's a big cloaking craft. Like this is the ridge line, or spine of this thing, and it's huge. The darker parts, it's all part of that one thing. And then at D.1, we start to see a stick-like element in the background. So we're really going to jump in and take a closer look at all this as well. So here we go. Look at that upper point where I thought this could all be one craft. I'm saying that because here you really see it, the straight line here, and then the straight line there parallel in the background. And look, it's kind of mimicking and echoing this. So I think this is like a one big craft with different parts to it. And then we start to look down here, and more stuff's going to emerge in a minute. We really start to see this stick-like element down at D.2. We really see there's a darkened object over here as well towards C.2. So let's keep looking with enhancements. This is a split, two different images, just so I could enhance them differently. So at the top again is that one thing that I thought might be one big object. I'm just trying to see if I can get any more detail out of it. I don't get too much more. But down below, here's our little reference plane, the little cockpit here. Look again, F.3, we got the triangular form, and then this massive, now darker object with plasma and things wafting in front of it, wafting in front of it. Again, the stick-like element. So I know I'm kind of repeating a lot, but I'm trying to show you different views and with different levels of contrast and enhancement to see if we can get at any more things. Like right here, this is like a little tube, partial tube that's purely horizontal. And we start to look at these little nooks and crannies that just don't fit with natural clouds. Like this thing looks like a handle, like on a cupboard, so it gets really weird. And so we're going to zoom in a little more here. Against that element in the cockpit for reference. Here's that bigger, shape looming in the background. Start to see little holes here too. This looks like 1, 2, 3, like we're looking at the ends of tubes once again. What's this weird little thing? There's just so much going on that really, presents more questions than answers. And here's to the right side of what I was calling that ridge line on this overall bigger object. And here we see this looks like a pure form in and of its own right. Now we're going to back out a bit one more time. Here's that pure form that I was just looking at. Now here's where we get to the cover photo. Look at this. So this is where we said the curve. There's a curve moving this way, a very crisp and clean edge here. Then look at this. This is a pure curved form, like an arm springing up out of this, attached to a pure triangle. Now, no cloud can do this, none. So we're looking at machine parts, and I'm sticking to that all the way, forever. I hope you see it too. And then here, this is that bigger craft that I thought, is all part of one thing. And I still think that probably is one bigger craft above. A lot of weird little things too. This looks like a perfect curve on an angle. We've got perfect points going on as well. This is another one. I'll leave it to you to keep looking to see what else you can find. There's weird stuff hopping in the back too along the bottom of this thing. Have fun. Now I take the color out again and zoom in on that weird little middle piece because it really is fascinating. Look at this curved arm to some kind of triangular form. What the heck is going on here? It's almost like, if this is a craft above and a craft below, it almost looks like something is fueling, I don't know which way. Like, how airplanes, some of the military airplanes, they can give each other fuel up in the air and refuel each other. And I don't know, this one's dropping fuel to here or vice versa. Or somebody's, or maybe it's like in a bank, in the old-fashioned tellers at a bank, where you have the suction tubes, you put the tellers would put the money in and it would suck up through a suction tube and land over at your car. It's almost like that. Like, what are they sending in between each craft? Or is this just some big fancy contraption to, tow, this thing below this thing? I don't know. See what else you can come up with for ideas. I just know this is machine parts. And something weird's happening in here too. And I have to zoom in again and look at this thing. I can't get enough of it because it is so bizarre, so in your face as not being cloud. I have to highlight it even more. So again, have fun with this one. What do you think it is? If you like, let me know in the comment section below. I'm still just stumped and in awe of all of this. Okay, now there's still much more to look at, so I got to get off of that for a while. Here we're looking at another view, and again, look at the scale of the trees and the horizon and everything that's happening above. And if you just look at this scene, you think, oh, it must be a beautiful day. Look at the scene. Well, okay, but the more you look at the clouds, you start to notice there are anomalies, strange things are going on. So how do we have, clouds more or less kind of coming across, but then we have sea just doing its own thing this way, and then we have like a pointed shape to this thing, a point, and it's going at a slightly different angle. And then these are more rounded and blocky looking, and the more we get into it, you're going to see how straight the bottoms of some of these are. So again, and what the heck is A doing? Where does it fit in this grand scheme of things? It just doesn't. So here's with some enhancement, and then we start to see things emerge. So G.1 is looking like a craft with, cloaking material around it, and we're going to zoom in on all these things. And then these look like, the fronts of whales or something. So again, totally different character than whatever is going on here. So let's keep moving. We're going to zoom in over down here on E and F. And here we go, E and F. So now we start to look a little bit more. And again, you could think, oh, well, it's just, I don't know, just different shadows playing among the clouds, even though that doesn't even make sense for the light angle and everything going on here. But the more we zoom in, we're going to start to see with enhancement, this stuff really pop out and catch your attention. So we've got a straight line here. We've got a weird piece or part here, reflective with shadow here. So again, starting to see and get hints of rigid forms, geometrical forms, things that are of design and of structure happening around here. So we need to do more enhancement to really get at it. And here we go. So you can really see that this looks like a bent piece or pipe, something metallic for sure. And so it's almost like these are like old-fashioned World War II looking submarines, like the bulkhead at the front with like gliding wings, flaps on the sides. I don't know, it's just really, really strange. We definitely start to see little structures and things like at the tip here. And then, straight lines with like cloaking material over it, roundish forms, just nothing adds up to be, you know, a typical cloud. Oh, even down here, it looks like a pipe is sticking out of this one, down here in the lower right. So we're gonna, we're gonna take this and we're gonna zoom in and fade it out a little bit more. And look at this. You know, we get a straight line if you follow my cursor, more or less straight. You know, this is a very clean, you know, machined looking piece, this whole thing. And this one too, you know. So again, we wouldn't have a cloud that goes like this and then has a perfect perpendicular stick-like element to it connected to another horizontal one. It's a weird down here too. Whatever's going on looks like it could have a lot of detail. We just can't see it. But we see a lot. I see enough to show me, again, look how parallel this is with this. They have a slight camber or arc or bow to the bottom, and it does the same thing here. So this looks, you know, pretty fascinating. Not sure exactly what's going on, but I can absolutely tell you, though, that those are engineered elements, machined elements. Okay, this gets fun. Here's the tree line once again at the bottom. You see the scale of some of these quote-unquote clouds, and this is absolutely going to be one of those air quote, quote-unquote clouds, inverted commas clouds, whatever it's called, inverted quotes. But look at this. You know, this doesn't even look like natural cloud material. I mean, it looks like, you know, just, I've said in other shows, I think self-disclosure is here more and more and more, and that some of these cloaking craft I've been observing, it's like they're being really sloppy on purpose so that we see them. Or maybe it's just now some of us are starting to be able to see, like physically see this stuff a little bit more, or a combination of both. But it's like they're not even trying to make that look like a natural cloud. That's not a cumulus cloud of any shape or form. So it's just kind of humorous at this point. But look at this. So we see some darker element moving horizontal and then coming up vertical. And we zoom in on this thing, and look at this baby, this puppy. We also have to look at the color signatures. So it's gold here, but like dark here and a little bit greenish, while this is pure cyan. So there's a lot of different things happening in this one little chunk. This also looks like it has a circular form, like little pipes maybe at the bottom coming toward us. It's just really bizarre. Okay, now this scene, again, you can look, oh, what a picturesque vista, and not really question what's going on with the clouds if you just glance and move your eyes back away. But the more you look, the more you find. So no, how do we have clouds that seem to be moving horizontal, but then this thing makes a dramatic diagonal? Okay, that just doesn't happen. With enhancement, look what's hiding in here. Dark object, right? Look at dark shadow being really cloaked back in here. But you can still make it out that there's a dark piece poking out of this lighter piece down here as well. It's like we just see the tips of these things, right? And then we start to see the character of the bottom, you know, these straight lines, and we start to get more of a picture that, hey, there's more than meets the eye going on here. Look at this shape. We're going to zoom in on this little piece in a minute. Here we go. What is this? That's not natural clouds. All these dark pieces. I think this dark piece is all part of one going this way, or this is one big form that has like a split leg, and this is all one thing, or it's multiple things. See what you think. Here we go, just looking at the end of it. What is this? It's not clouds. All right, and we're looking at this scene too, and oh, how picturesque, you know. But again, look at B. It's a very specific point on this thing with a rounded back, presumably, or maybe it's a straight line, but with the puff of whatever cloaking that is. We only see it, you know, like that. But look at this. So YowieGrrrowlz did a great observation, I mean, with the naked eye, to, you know, observe that these things are really blocky looking and have a straight line. And YowieGrrrowlz thought, yeah, how really odd. Hold on one second. All right, so we're going to go ahead and not waste any more time. Let's look at it with enhancement. And here we go. You know, it's just so apparent when we do this. And again, look at the scale of the horizon and these things. And look at this, pure line at C.1. These are absolutely engineered and machined objects. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all parallel lines. You know, there's machinery back in here as well. And then what's going on at B.1, right? Okay, we're going to zoom in. Again, this looks like the end of a pipe. If you follow my cursor, it's popping out level, and that's an absolute rim of something. So we're looking at the end of a cylinder as a pipe. It looks like there's a spout, like a jet nozzle, coming out here toward us. And then, you know, we have all these lines that are pretty parallel. So this gets really, really, the more you look, the more you see, the more bizarre it becomes. So I'm going to zoom in. Here's that little jet nozzle I was talking about. It's almost like if you do cake decorating, the icing tip that's open, and you can do more fancy decorations on cakes and such. And here, there's a pipe down here as well. There's all these little bits and pieces that are machine parts. We'll keep going. Another view. Look at these things. Come on. It's not a natural cloud. And here you really see this pattern of these parallel things, right? And here we go. Boom, 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 boom. All parallels. And looks like the end of a pipe right here as well. So just fascinating. And I like to look at this with the different color signatures. Again, it kind of helps us really see what we're dealing with. Look at this line if you follow my cursor. It's a straight line. All right, here it is again. Look at that. It just really stands out, does it not? And here we go. Look at this. Flat, flat piece, and this kind of tower-like element. Flat piece here. And what's going on over here? And I haven't even gotten to these types of quote-unquote clouds above. We'll just kind of focus on the lower ones. And then if you look in the background, look at this. Straight, straight, more or less straight. Look at all of these. I'm going to say all of these are cloaking craft. Because when we zoom in, look at this. When you look at the question marks, look at this. It's like a coat hook. I don't know if you've been in a toilet stall in a public building, and you look at the back of the door, the little partition, there's like a little hook for your purse or your coat or whatever. And that's what it looks like coming at you, or like some kind of fish hooks. And it comes all the way back up here too. There's like a little pipe-like piece. It is really bizarre. And then over here, again, we have like the end of a pipe. We have another piece with a little stick coming toward us. And what the heck is this at C.2? That's a stick of some kind. So is that like an antenna on a bigger ship? It's just all very, very weird, but yet specific enough to say, hey, this has structure to it. And there's also little weird little stick-like things popping up out of these things down here as well. That's why I say it looks like a whole host of individual craft. We zoom in again, follow my cursor on the question marks. Look at this. Those are hooks. Those are clear pieces. And this hook is parallel to this. So it's absolutely done consciously with design to it. And then look how straight this is. There's like a notch. And it's just really, really bizarre. And over here too, the more you look, you really see the little engineered pieces happening. Then we're going to go in and look at this piece. What's going on? Look at these, look like spikes. These are actually, you see these two things? They match up. They're like they're the same type and shape and parallel to each other. So what the heck is going on with this thing? And then, you know, it's flat. And then this looks like the head of like the Loch Ness Monster or dragon. Reminds me of the Viking boats, the longships. I put in my shorts recently. The head of the serpent, I forget the name of the Norse serpent. It begins with a J. You'll probably know what I mean. Not Jorgmund, something like that. And but what the heck is going on? The way this is split and the way it's like a dark form. Jury's out on this one for me. What do you see going on in there? And then we've got, again, the straight shapes, a lot of questionable movement going on in this quote-unquote cloud activity. Oh, and just for fun, if this is the Loch Ness Monster, play on that just for fun for cloud play. You see the head moving this way, that would be the head and the neck. Just for fun, we've got a little Loch Ness Monster moving this way. Look at the wake on that baby. So anyway, it's just a beautiful dog that YowieGrrrowlz knows. But anyway, that's just for a little bit of fun. So that's not to be confused with the Loch Ness Monster. Anyhow, this has been, to me, just again, mind-boggling, eye-opening of what is captured in the skies over Australia. And again, this applies wherever you are, wherever you stand and look up. You will also have cloaking craft, guaranteed, wherever you are. I'm finding it in Miami. I find it wherever I drive and travel to, different states. I look up and you see this stuff. So it truly is a global event. They're everywhere. Nothing to fear. but just to really look up and be in awe of. So again, we are going to close out now. Australian skies. Huge hugs, tremendous heartfelt thanks to YowieGrrrowlz for these fascinating photos. And thanks for heading over here a while. And as always, tremendous peace and love to you. And until next time, Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.